Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. I would like to appreciate all your support, watching, subscribing, commenting. You know this channel, in my disclaimer, I always say is extremely opinion based, and it's not my intention to, cross lines or boundaries or really just upset somebody. So if you have heard something here that you thought was contradictory, you are most welcome to actually make your own contribution. I think we most appreciate that. You can always just drop a comment down in the box, and then hopefully it could teach somebody else. So today we will attempt to kind of like go through something regarding the developmental stages of a man from birth through the stages of when he's called a boy until he eventually becomes a man. And I think it might need somebody who has actually lived all those kind of major stages to kind of like also bring in that experience in terms of what could be, you know, could be relevant to say. But like I said, these things are very subjective, and you might find that society has got a dynamic way of rephrasing and redefining these things, and that's why I'm saying, like, let it just kind of like be taken in the context that it's opinion based and it's not intended to actually offend somebody. And also, the channel really targets that audience of males, boys and men who are uh, self-conscious, and they know who they are, and they know this gender is God-given, and they want to remain on the trajectory to become responsible citizens of their communities, for example. And also the kind of advice that I'm prepared to, or the discussion that I'm prepared to give today, um, is not really very scientific to the core, but I think it generally highlights the what you'd call milestones of development, and maybe to some extent it could raise some awareness, so that you know that okay, maybe that's just a phase that I'm going through. So obviously, as you might have heard, that when we are conceived, when we are in our beloved mama's wombs, our beloved mama's wombs. I think that's the best environment ever to be. uh, there's usually no sex differentiation initially. So when the development occurs inside, eventually the genetic code kicks in, takes its heavy influence on you know what you're going to become. So fast forward, before you are born, you are developed into either a male or a female. And I know, like I said, I don't want to really be controversial. This is not supposed to be a scientific explanation. That there are some areas where things like some developmental ambiguities could occur, and maybe we could just leave that a little bit for the experts. So let's say you're born a male. So roughly it's understood that during infancy, they pretty much just want to suck the breast milk, enjoy, and they are usually happy. They only cry because they are annoyed or feel cold, or something really is irritating them, or they really want to feed. But outside infancy, that is about after 1 year, when a male child is about 2 years, they are becoming a little bit fully aware of their differences in terms of, like their physical structure. they could be aware that, oh, okay, I'm actually different from somebody else who's different from me. Because, for example, when I want to, you know, pee, I would stand and do so. So they are becoming fully aware roughly around that time. But obviously, like I say, society has taken a heavy toll on this, and I don't think it's really fair that there's indoctrination of different unnatural concepts on children. I don't think it's really fair. I think, in as much as, like I say, I don't really want to step on people's toes, let these things come in during adulthood so that people are able to take a conscious decision on them. So then he is kind of like fully aware, and then when he hits about teenage, around about 13, 14 years of age, this is when a boyhood, really, if you will, starts. And the boy becomes fully aware of who he is, and he also then begins to develop secondary sexual characteristics. That is, his voice deepens. Believe me, I used to speak in a squeakier voice before, but now my voice is a little bit deeper. Their voice deepens, their muscle structure kind of like they develop a little muscle, like, yeah, meaning I've already developed it before. Yeah, it's not a gym though. It's not a gym. It's just hormones, not externally injected hormones, natural hormones. Yeah. So the point is, they develop some musculoskeletal changes, meaning they put on some muscles, their shoulders broaden, their voice deepens, they develop a beard, and also hair in some hair bearing areas, armpit hair, pubic hair. And actually, during that time, a lot of those sexual secondary characteristics kick in. And, things like maybe production of sperm, and they could experience unfamiliar phenomena like wet dreams and things like that, and that is absolutely normal and natural. So I would encourage young boys around that age who are experiencing these things and are wondering what's happening to me, to open up. If you have an adult male, try to speak to him, or even your mom or an adult female, not a problem. Most of the time, the adults would know what to say, so that you're not, left wondering why do I wake up like this. And yeah, they really need a little bit of help and a little bit of direction, because they become too sensitive to a lot of things. Even emotionally, they could become a little bit defiant, and they just want to kind of like what I would like to call Madame Eve's syndrome, where you're told not to do this, and then they become more curious to say, okay, but what if I actually do? That kind of thing. So these are the kind of things that could actually happen, and I think that's where they really need a lot of guidance. And you guys out there in that stage, teenagers, you need a little bit of help. You need a lot of help, in fact, when you think you actually cannot understand or explain what's happening to you. Like I pointed out, even the developmental stage of the brain itself is still kind of going through a lot of evolution. Sorry for using the word evolution. A lot of development, actually. So you may actually understand things slightly differently, and society actually expects you to do things differently. So don't be too hard on yourself. But that's actually the stage where I think even teachers or other institution workers who are dealing with teenagers, they really need to understand that these people are going through a lot of rapid developmental changes. Okay, so roughly that's usually what occurs. And then, always development happens. And now you're headed out to becoming a fully matured man. And obviously, these things don't happen like in rapid switches on and off kind of switch. The metamorphosis actually is a progressive process, if you will. It takes time. One has to be very patient, and maybe one could mature slightly faster than another person, depending on various factors, of which environmental factors are part and parcel. So now the golden question is, when does one stop becoming a boy, to become a man eventually? I think that is going to be very, very subjective, because um, a man can be defined in many, many different ways. The vast, variable ways through which a man could be defined. And I think, to be fair enough, as far as society is concerned, if you, a boy, can actually readily identify that you've got responsibilities in your life, whether it's towards yourself, your education, or maybe towards your family, and once you've taken cognizance of this, you're able to do something about it. You're able to actually love and protect your family. You're able to actually care for your beloved ones, even without really having the means to do so. It's not always about, you know, finishing school to start working so that you can start buying gifts for people. There are quite a lot of people who do that, but not quite there yet in terms of what would be befitting to become a man. It's really about exhibiting, you know, the set standards of what a man is expected to do in society. A man is supposed to be a leader, a head of, your family or your organization. You don't actually have to be the actual person in charge, but you have to be very important in the fact that you are contributing meaningfully in terms of the ideas that you bring about, in terms of just identifying challenges and coming up with solutions and working towards that solution, and never relenting when things are not promising. So a man is supposed to do all that naturally, by the way, and a man is supposed to be a protector of everyone, especially our women and children. So we really need to ensure that our men are actually taking on those roles, taking on those responsibilities, and actually showing it more. And also, since I talked about the brain development and how it affects your emotions and all that, it is now expected that during this stage called the man, you're no longer really rapidly developing as much. So you are supposed to actually be expected to have your emotions in check. You are not supposed to be operating on emotions. So anger management is a very important thing. I think men are expected to really be in full control of their emotions. You need to be slow to anger, slow to anger, honestly. Because sometimes, if you're too quick to anger, you realize that you could actually be the one that was at fault. So, and then because, most people have got a lot of hyperinflated egos, they find it even difficult to actually approach a person and say, okay, I lashed out at you and my intention now is to apologize. And that's usually not easy for most people. So I don't really want to bore you with a lot of those opinions, but I think you might have learned one or two things out of there. And my punchline really is that men are supposed to be leading by good example in our society. Men are supposed to manage their anger issues. Men are supposed to be protectors and providers. And men are also obviously going through a lot, and that if they become self-aware, they need to also begin to identify those avenues that offer them the opportunity to come out and discuss their pains, their anger, so that they can offload it in a nice way. So men also need to be cared for, and that is actually where our women come in. So yeah, let us also increase that communication. Let us just increase that communication. Sometimes, you thought maybe you needed an expert to resolve your issue, but in actual sense, you just needed to say to somebody, maybe your colleague, or somebody, or your friend or your relative. I think let us not undermine each other in terms of what do you think this person can offer me in terms of advice. But it will go a long way if we increase communication in our society. That was all, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time. Bye.